I just won a tournament in 2024 playing Orcust. This is one of my absolute favorite decks of all time. Cue the music, let's take a look. Okay, let's dive into this first place Runick Orcust deck profile. I'm super excited to have these cards back, and Harp at 3, gotta love it. So we start off with 3 yugioh, the Orcust Mech Knight. This sends Harp. What more do you actually want out of a normal summon? Plus it gives you that extra name, so you essentially have full combo for single card. Really cool. And you can bait like Imperms and Veilers with the Runick side of the deck, which you've seen in a lot of other types of decks, so I think this is pretty cool combination of strategies. 3 Harp Horror, so glad it's back. This is one of the coolest cards I think Konami has ever come up with. The artwork is really nice, it's dark, which is obviously pretty cool. It's a machine, it's got a good attack stat, it's level 4, and it has an effect that summons from the grave. Literally just everything aligns with this card. Just waiting for the day that we get like a really high rarity, like a secret or an ulti print of this, which would just make my day. I believe there are some other alternatives, but I'm just on the rares for now. And 3 Nightmare, second best discard, and then the worst discard is a Symbol Skeleton because it doesn't really do anything on its own. It's a normal summon that makes half a Galatea, but that Galatea isn't doing anything, so it's not ideal. However, World Wand does arguably slightly more than Symbol Skeleton at the moment. Sure, you can't normal summon it alongside a Runick card, but the fact that it summons back your Harp is pretty crazy. And then for the rest of the Orcust engine, 1 return, 1 crescendo. Lots of people are playing 2 return. I'm just playing 1, you'll see what the slots are taken up with later. Maybe you could play more crescendo if you're going for a really grindy game, but most people don't tend to be doing that these days. It seems to just sort of be 1 crescendo and a load of Runick stuff to back it up. So speaking of Runick stuff, we're onto the Runick engine now. 2 Fountain, can't play anymore. 3 Tip, 3 Freezing Curses, 3 Flashing Fire, 3 Destruction, 2 Smiting Storm, and 1 Dispelling. There are no copies of Slumber or Droplet in this deck. I don't own them, which is one reason. The other reason is that I'm not trying to deck people out so much, I'm more just trying to get names for discards, but to be honest, you could arguably change some of the non-engine within this deck for Slumbers, but I don't think you would need Droplet. Decking people out isn't necessarily what you're aiming to do with this deck. Right, that's it. Every single one of these discards Harp, so pretty happy with that lineup. The non-engine Foolish, which is sort of like a pseudo yugioh. 3 Droplet to help break boards. Maybe this is a slot that you could consider swapping for Runick Scales if you want even more engine. 3 Upstart, because I really like Upstart. In a deck where you're not playing hand traps, it seems like a really good option to have. Like it just, basically it makes no difference, right? If you draw this versus something else, the only time it will come up is when you resolve your Fountain And by the time you're resolving Fountain, then you're probably in a good spot anyway, so you can probably wait a turn to play whatever spell you drew. And the last card, which I played, which arguably loses you a lot of friends, Vanity's Fiend, because you don't necessarily always have to do your normal summon. There are quite a lot of lines where you just sort of go activate a runic spell, discard Nightmare or Harp, and you get into a full combo without ever having used your normal summon. You end up with a Galatea Crescendo, and you could just tribute off whatever you summoned with your wand for a Vanity's Fiend. And yeah, it's not the most fun and interactive card in the deck, but it did its job. It did a decent job, and I probably have to take it out so that I can have more fun with my friends. Right, that's it for the main deck, extra deck. 2 Dingirsu, 2 Galatea, 1 Longirsu. I think I summoned Longirsu once and it was a bad thing to do at that point. Arguably I should have just done something else with it. But 2 Gala, 2 Ding I really like. Lots of people are only playing 1 and 1, but that tends to be where their extra decks are more sort of combo oriented, which mine isn't. I mean, let's face it, I've got Vanity's Fiend in my main deck. I'm not exploding into combo lines. However, there is the odd occasion that I get to summon Evil Swarm Nightmare, which is pretty cool. It just takes 2 Dark level 4 monsters, and it has 2 interactions essentially for 1 rank 4, which is really nice. Plus, often this has a Harp underneath it, so not only am I getting interactions off it, but I'm also getting Harp back into the grave. So I really enjoyed playing this actually. And I played 1 Typhon. It feels almost mandatory to play this sometimes, but I don't think I ever actually summon it on the day. Definitely worth having though. It's sort of like a safety net that you just want to have in a lot of decks at the moment. Right, that's it for the sort of Orcust and the Exceed monsters. The Runicks, 2 Hugin, 1 Yari or Jerry. I didn't play the Sleipnir, and I didn't play more copies of this or the Munin. I didn't want like a time condition win thing. I just wanted to sort of play it and see if I could get some damage in anyway, but maybe that's the wrong thing to do when you're sort of playing a slower deck. So Munin is definitely an option you can consider. No Sleipnir because I wanted more ways to discard the Harp and the Nightmare. Basically, my view with this deck was I want to play Orcust cards as much as possible, and if I'm enabling that with Hugin, then I'm in a happy position. So the remaining cards are all Link monsters. Link Spider is mandatory because you summon tokens with your Girsu and you need to turn them into something that's not a normal monster. 1 SP, 1 IP. Maybe the IP could have come out. It didn't really do anything on the day, but SP was pretty nice to just have as a backup. Barricade Ball Blocker, which comes up in the awkward hands, and then the real flex spot of the extra deck is Topologic Bomber Dragon. Maybe it could have been access code, but you know, you're sort of dark locked half the time. So I'm not really sure what this should be. Let me know what you think. There are so many good sort of high link rating monsters that you could play. Maybe it should be a Nightmare, Unicorn, maybe it should be something else, but this is what I went with on the day, and it seemed to work out. Never actually summoned this guy, but summoned everything else in my extra deck at some point, I think. On to side deck. 3 power spells, Change of Heart, Snatch Steal, and Call by the Grave. I really love all of these cards in different positions, and I've just been sort of playing them in my side deck for the longest time now, and they're probably just going to stay there because they're all so powerful at the things that they're doing. Drawing them just sometimes feels like you're drawing pieces of Exjodia, basically. Then to break boards, Dark Ruler, to stop combos, Troll, to break spell and trap boards. It's double Cosmic 1 Feather Duster, and then for sort of other interaction, I played the Bestial package, so 2 Druids, 1 Balldrake. I couldn't trade it into a Magnet in time for the event, but I've got one lined up, so that should be pretty good for the future. I'd just swap a Druid Swarm for a Magnet, and I think it's probably a better way to play. These are pretty cool. With the Bestial version of the deck, you can do some cool stuff with Dissipator, but I didn't have all the pieces for that at the time. But what I really like is you can just sort of banish your bits and pieces from the graveyard and then bring them back with the Wild Wand. So you never feel like you're losing out when you have to banish your own stuff with the Bestials. Really cool, really enjoyed them. Won me a game if you're up for anecdotal evidence. But yeah, that's my list. Let me know what you think. Tell me about your suggestions in the comments section. What changes would you make other than dropping Vanity's Fiend? Or would you just change it for Majesty's Fiend? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.